Yo, what's up? Pokemon Go Tour Hoenn Global Edition is right around the corner, so for plebs like us who didn't go to Las Vegas to try to catch Primal Groudon and Kyogre, they're here this weekend for everyone else to catch. Primal Groudon is going to be one of the strongest Pokemon in the game for Pokemon Go, but the problem is it is so strong that even a team of 8 to 10 raiders might not even take it down in time. You can spend so much, it'll do so much damage that you'll spend more time reviving your Pokemon than actually fighting Primal Groudon. Its moveset is to worry about is Earthquake, which does neutral damage to most of the Pokemon you use against it. Fire Blast, you hope it has Fire Blast, although because it's part fire and part ground, Fire Blast now gets Stab. Solar Beam. Solar Beam is the most terrifying move that Primal Groudon can have. And you realize that even Stab Earthquake, doing 1.2 times 140 damage, being 168 damage, is still not the same amount of damage as Solar Beam. And Solar Beam will do super effective damage to all your water Pokemon counters, thus removing them all in 6 Solar Beams. The only Pokemon that can possibly survive Solar Beam is Gyarados. Gyarados being the type flying in water. Well, let me correct that. Gyarados has a chance of surviving Solar Beam. Quick math here. Solar Beam has 180 base power. Groudon has 290 attack. At level 40, Gyarados has 158 defense with 182 health. Using the damage formula of 0.5 times the Solar Beam times the attack over the defense equals +1 equals 165 damage, which will leave your level 40 Gyarados with 15 defense IVs and 50 health IVs down to 17. Which means it'll die to 2 more Dragon Tails. At level 50, with 168 defense and 194 health, you'll be left at 39 HP to be evenly taken down by exactly 3 more Dragon Tails. So, moral of the story, the only thing that can possibly survive the Primal Groudon Solar Beam is the Gyarados. Everything else gets defeated. So, if nothing else, use Gyarados. Magikarp has been readily available. Hopefully, you have enough candy to evolve a few. What moveset to use? If you're able to acquire one with Aqua Tail, it would be ideal. Although don't worry, Hydro Pump and Aqua Tail overall have the same DPS, virtually the same DPS for Gyarados. The only problem is if you take a Solar Beam while charging up for Hydro Pump, you will not get off the high damage Hydro Pump move before going down. However, against his other moves of Earthquake being double resisted because it was due to his flying type, and water resisting fire like all the other water counters. But if you don't have Gyarados, we'll go over the list of Pokemon you can use for countering Primal Groudon. If you have a Primal Kyogre already, highly advisable to use it. Mega Swampart's great, although you will die to Solar Beam. Even dodging Solar Beam will take down 60% of your health. Mega Blastoise. Again, another good counter, decently tanky. Will survive Stab Earthquake, will resist the Fire Blast, that's good to go. Shadows, again, nice damage if you can get off the Hydro Cannons, but if it will go down to Earthquakes. So against Fire Blast, use it. Earthquakes, you might go down before getting off a charge move. But if we don't have Shadows and Megas, what other Pokemon could you use? Shadow and not Mega. Ployon. You know what? We'll just make a tier list. Let's go right to the tier list. So I loaded up all the Pokemon, the non-Shadow, or not using Shadows, not using Megas. If you have those, use them if you have at a high enough level. If not, you're perfectly fine using 30 plus level Pokemon for Primal Groudon. Starting with Blastoise. So this tier list is going to be based off the availability, damage, and survivability. If it might survive a lot of different attacks but not easily acquirable, it's not the best choice. If you have it, use it, but if you're trying to power something up, it's hard to get around to. Starting with Blastoise. Blastoise with Water Gun Hydro Cannon does a serviceable amount of damage, but its move is exclusive, not easy to acquire, so it's going to be C tier. Cloudster. I do like my crabs. I find Crab Hammer to be one of my favorite attacks in the game. However, Cloudster is a little squishy. It will die to most of its move. Probably might even die to a Sun Boosted Fire Blast, even though it's resisted. So that's going to be put in D tier. Crabominable. That one's definitely going in D tier because it's... Quick side note. Fighting Ice. Yeah, it doesn't even get stab. Crab Hammer. And it's also hard to acquire. Again, Groudon. I'm going to be putting this in D tier because it's too squishy, and it might get off on Crab Hammer before dying. You want something that can survive a few fast moves and potentially an Earthquake. Speaking of surviving an Earthquake, that's Employon. Also putting in D tier as it takes neutral damage from all 3 of Primal Groudon's attacks. Meaning, Employon in the sun will die to Earthquake, super effective damage, neutral Fire Blast because of the Steel typing, as well as neutral Solar Beam. Employon, and its charge move is Hydro Cannon, which is exclusive. I'd rather you use a Feraligatr. Feraligatr, similar story to Blastoise. It resists the Fire Blast, but will go down to the Earthquake and Solar Beam. Greninja, I'll kind of put it in D tier. It's going to die too easily to everything else. It's pretty squishy. It does get Bubble and Surf, but the damage is not enough to compensate, so it's going to be D tier. Gyarados, the Pokemon of the hour, I'm putting it in S tier. Even though it's not the highest damage in the game, it's still going to be, overall, on average, it'll survive the longest, getting off the most damage, as well as spending less time in the revival screen. So having multiple Gyarados is ideal. Kingler, again, another crab I'm putting in the D tier, because not many people really have Kingler. Even though its DPS is great, it's still a little squishy. But actually, I'm going to bump up to C tier because Kingler has been around since Gen 1, so people should have enough candy to power it up if need be. But if you have a Hydro Cannon, Blastoise, or Feraligatr, definitely prefer you guys to power up that mon. Kyogre I'm putting in A tier. A tier because we're still basically dying to Earthquake. Stab Earthquake will still either one-shot or almost one-shot. Probably one-shot in the sun, which meaning Gyarados is preferable overall since it will survive more of Primal Groudon's attacks. So Kyogre, if you have them, power it up. It's such a good Pokemon. Milotic is pretty tanky, but it's hard to get. People might have one Milotic lying around from doing the Celebi quest. So if you have that, maybe you have a lucky Milotic. If you have it, use it. I'm putting it in C tier because it's Waterfall Surf, meaning you'll be getting off lots of surfs before eventually going down to that Solar Beam. Palkia I'm putting in B tier because even though it's going to take lots of damage from Dragon Tail, you're still resisting the fire, resisting the Fire Blast, so you're going to be basically a wall against it, especially if it's Mudshot Fire Blast. It's hard to acquire, which is why it's not in A tier, and doesn't do nearly as much damage as Kyogre. So it's going to sit firmly in B tier. Now, Primarina is... I'm also going to put it in B tier. because now I'm putting in C tier. If I had Hydro Cannon, I'd probably put it in B tier, as it will double resist the Dragon Tail from the Primal Groudon, which will do a ton of damage, even though has no stab properties. But since it doesn't have its exclusive move being Hydro Cannon, I'm keeping it in C tier. Samurott. Good DPS, but again, same story as. Is it an alphabet? I want to put. There you go. As I'm putting in C tier, still above the other two, as the damage is higher. You can get waterfall Hydrocan, yeah. So damage is higher than Blastoise and Feraligatr, but again, it's still pretty squishy. You're going down to Stab, Earthquake, and obviously Solar Beam. Swampert putting in B tier, mainly because people probably have a lot of these. It's been very popular in not just PvE, but also PvP. So just the availability of Swampert having multiple chances to get Hydro Cannon, it is ideal to use. And then lastly, I put Vaporeon on here, mainly because its availability is so high. If you have nothing else, just having a high level Vaporeon, it will tank quite a bit of damage from Primal Groudon. So I'm putting Vaporeon in B tier, mainly because you probably have so many EV candy that you can just get a Vaporeon with Water Gun Aqua Tail, and you'll be just fine. So here's a tier list I have for facing Primal Groudon. It's moral of the story, you're not walking away without going to the revival screen unless you have 20 people all using proper counters. But just to give everyone a good chance at beating Primal Groudon, this is I would say I'd highly recommend using this tier list for Pokemon to power up for Primal Groudon. I think that sums up what I have to say. Good luck coming this weekend for taking on Primal Groudon. I'll see you in the next video. We're going to talk about Primal Tiger next. So until then, I'm Van BC.